Okay, in this video I am going to be reviewing Ballmasterz 9009 Episode 4, To Catch a Princess. The only good episode of this series. If anything, this sort of thing classifies as the one and only good episode from an overall bad show. I'm pretty sure any of you who are familiar with my channel would be aware that I reviewed this entire series last year and basically went on about how it's basically a bitter, jealous, steaming pile of shit. And in that video, I said that I would eventually review this episode, which I intend to do now. Okay, so the episode starts with Ace playing the computer game To Catch a Princess. And yes, To Catch a Princess is essentially a parody of Pokémon. Because Pokémon has an anime adaptation, ballmasterz 9009 felt the need to kick the franchise right in the nuts. Or in this case, right in the taco. Ace had been playing a long time, but it turns out that was all a dream. Baby Ball shows up and tells him he's late for practice. Okay, Ace isn't really as effective as he could be because he was up all night playing To Catch a Princess and is very tired. And they argue about that. The argument becomes a fist fight, which Gaz then instantly breaks up, and despite being written as a brainless bimbo, as well as an alcoholic, Gaz actually makes a good point to Ace when she says that video games are for losers that can't achieve anything in real life. And despite the fact that the writers temporarily gave Gaz some words of wisdom, To Catch a Princess is actually a computer game. I mean, the boy's hands are on the keyboard. I don't see a controller. And this is obviously a computer. I don't see a console attached to it. So, yeah. She's right when she said video games are for losers who won't amount to anything in the real world, but wrong about To Catch a Princess being a video game. She then tells them that they need to focus on learning how to form Ballmaster so they can start winning at athletic competition. Ace gets upset over the accusation that he's doing this just to meet girls, and then he storms off. So anyways, after hours of playing, Ace finally captures Luna, the one he needed for his collection, but as it turns out, the woman who was playing as Luna actually talks to him through the game, because I guess this is online, and she tells him that she wants to meet up with him, and that she knows all about him, that he's on the Leptons, but she wants him to come as ballmaster. So anyways, Ace then kidnaps Baby Ball and takes him to the park. So anyways, at the park, they're walking through it. Baby Ball makes a bunch of lowbrow pedophilic jokes, but he is actually kind of right in the fact that this is a dangerous place. I mean, that guy right there looks like a hobo version of Jason Voorhees, and that other guy kind of looks like a werewolf. That is something I like about this. I mean, this easily could be what Baby Ball is implying it is, in that Luna is actually going to turn out to be a creepy old man. And these two characters right here, the drunken bums, they look, I mean, this guy looks like Jason Voorhees. That guy looks like the Wolfman. This is actually a good stylistic choice if you want to present this as like a dangerous situation, which it could turn out to. Ace instantly sees Luna, points her out, and identifies him, proving Baby Ball wrong, and yeah, kind of making everything we just saw into one massive fake-out. Ace transforms into Ballmaster, or Power Ace, as he's referring to the form in this episode. Meeting Luna in person causes Ace to get certain feelings that I'm not going to talk about, which causes Baby Ball and Ace to defuse. But as it turns out, Luna is actually the main villain of this episode, and this is exactly what she was planning for. Luna's henchmen then tranquilize both Ace and Baby Ball. Meanwhile, back in the Lepton's base, Gaz walks into Ace's room, only to find out he's gone, but she does see that his computer is on, and To Catch a Princess is running on it. And for reasons that I don't know, I can only assume Gaz is currently drunk. Gaz sits down and decides to play To Catch a Princess. Because, yeah, it was running on Ace's computer, and she was probably only half drunk when she walked in. So anyways, Ace wakes up tied up in the Ashigare princess's hideout. I know I probably butchered that. Okay, they let Baby Ball out of the box they were holding him in, and I really like the line, the part where he says, "I'll send help while I can, but don't let that discourage you from forming your own escape plan." That was actually really well written, and it was done well. Luna tries to tempt Ace into betraying the Leptons by telling them how they form Ballmaster, but Ace refuses, actually showing some decent character. Baby Ball refuses to talk, and in his words, he declares this the classic stalemate. Until the henchmen start squeezing him as a means of interrogation, and he instantly breaks down, saying in his own words, "Okay, I'll talk. I'll even give you all my money." That line there was just so freaking hilarious. They then put Ace and Baby Ball through pain to try and figure out the secrets of unlocking Ballmaster. So, back at the Lepton's base, Leto comes into Ace's room, seeing Gaz, who is still playing to catch a princess, even though 12 hours had passed. And this basically shows Gaz's extremely addictive personality, as she had played for 12 hours straight, and as Leto pointed out, she should probably eat something or at least go to the bathroom. When Gaz asks where Ace and Baby Ball are, Leto tells her that he hadn't seen him since yesterday, which causes Gaz to look at the screen, see the name Luna, and put two and two together that this whole thing about Ace and Baby Ball not being there was a ploy by the Ashigaru princesses, I butchered that name again, so they could learn the secret on how to form Ballmaster. After hours of torture, Ace still refuses to give them the secrets of Ballmaster. But Baby Ball would, as he's finally cracked under the pressure and can't handle being tortured anymore. But then the Leptons kick down the door and show up to beat down the Ashigari princesses and take back Ace and Baby Ball. And during the fight, Ace and Baby Ball refuse into Ballmaster. The Leptons easily won this brawl, and with Luna the only Ashigari princess still standing, this is actually where the episode really shines. She tries to flirt with Ace in order to escape. Now, any other show on Western TV would allow the femme fatale to essentially flirt her way out of the beating she's about to receive at this kid's hands. But they don't do that in this episode, or on this series. Ace was able to fight off temptation and deck Luna right in the face. I mean, that is an MRA move if I ever saw one. Yeah, people on the internet say that gender equality in anime is comedy gold. I'm saying gender equality in this scene right here is justice. So anyways, this episode gives Gaz a few more words of wisdom when she says, "Let's get out of here before the cops show up." And they do. And they have a party. The episode ends with somewhat of a bittersweet epilogue. Ace, now heartbroken, essentially decides to release Luna from his collection, but vows to better himself and recapture her one day, thus bringing the only good episode of Ballmasterz 9009 to a close. Okay, now I'm gonna say some good things about the only good episode of Ballmasterz 9009. And that is the fact that To Catch a Princess has a lot in common with another computer game that's online that has ties to Pokemon, which is gonna come up in the good things that I intend to say about this, which comes up now. And to say it, I'm gonna have to get the elephant out of the room. This here, what you're seeing, is literally the closest thing that we'd ever get to a Moemon anime. Because I guarantee you that if rumors ever surfaced that a Moemon anime was in production, I'm pretty sure that I'm 100% certain that Nintendo would send their lawyers to whoever the rumor said was making it. And it wouldn't be just a cease and desist letter like all these the creators of all these different fan games have been getting. It would be a lawsuit, a direct lawsuit. I know I said this before, but in all fairness, this scene, going with the whole Moemon theme, kind of looks like something, it looks like a screenshot straight out of a crossover fighting game. If Bandai got the license to Moemon somehow, and in doing so, they made a crossover fighting game where random Moemon would be pit against both Gundam characters and characters from Overman King Gainer. Plus, look at this. I can see why people on the internet say gender equality in anime is comedy gold. If you want to use it to piss off some loony feminist. But in all fairness, this scene is great. It actually shows Ballmasterz 9009 for at least one episode actually being an anime-inspired cartoon, as this is the sort of thing they would do in anime. They wouldn't allow Luna a situation she could flirt her way out of. This is the sort of thing they would do in anime. On any Western show, the femme fatale would actually be allowed to flirt her way out of a situation that involved being clobbered by a young cyborg who she knows has a crush on him. But they didn't do that. And in doing so, this is the best scene in the entire episode. No wonder people would say that gender equality in anime is comedy gold. Why can't we have writing like that on Western TV? Which is one of the reasons that this scene essentially shines as well as it does and is as great as I say it is. This is... from what I've seen, I'm pretty sure whoever wrote this not only plays Moemon, but when the crew decided that they would kick Pokemon in the balls and or taco, I'm pretty sure whoever wrote this was subconsciously thinking of Moemon and bringing forth a desire to create a Moemon anime. Okay, now that I've said some good things about this episode, time to give it a little bit of a negative critique and say some of the bad things. And irony is a real bitch, because one thing that can either make or kill a franchise is the pitch. Yes, Ballmasterz 9009 does appeal to the assholes who write for Adult Swim, because they're allowed to vent their frustrations over Japanese anime being the thing that brings in the bulk of Adult Swim's ratings. But on the other hand, I've seen the kind of pilots that the assholes who write for Adult Swim make. Like this one, Spooky Dreams. This was the best out of all of them. It had potential, but the clown who made it basically threw all the potential out the window in exchange for a terrible art style, and next to no plotline that goes nowhere, and basically crude and sexual humor. This is the best episode of the series, and ironically, it shows the number one thing wrong with Ballmasterz 9009. And that's the premise. The premise of a bunch of athletes who get into fights in a world that's meant to be a giant fuck you to anime was appealing to the people who'd write it. And I'm sure they used franchises like Steven Universe and OKKO to convince the higher-ups that there was potential in this franchise. But, ironically, if this, To Catch a Princess, if this had been the pitch they went with, I guarantee you that not only would it have been greenlit without a pilot needed, it would be good. It would have been the Adult Swim equivalent to Steven Universe. I mean, the premise of an anime-inspired cartoon for Adult Swim, with essentially whatever it is the guy who made this told the higher-ups it would be about, was probably good. If it had been like this Moemon-inspired show, it would have been 10 times better if what you're looking at here was the premise. I mean, the first episode writes itself. Just have the game exist in a meta sense, and basically have the first episode show that the game runs on Pokemon logic, And since the princesses would need someone to order them around because they're like Pokemon, they would essentially bust through reality like something out of a creepypasta, or in this case a not-so-creepypasta, and recruit the orphan Ace Ambling to essentially be their master, because they would need him to order them around, progress through the game, you know, do the whole Pokemon, or in this case Moemon thing, where he'd be like the equivalent to Ash, Red, Silver, whatever Pokemon protagonist you want to go with. And all you gotta do is, for something like this, is set him up as a kid in an orphanage who just gets sucked into a computer game world, and show that the nuns who run it are just really mean and rotten and abusive, and don't really freak out when this boy goes missing. But that's a topic for another video. Don't worry, it's a video I will make. Another bad thing about this episode is essentially the fact that our main villain, Luna, is a parody of Sailor Moon. I mean, for a show that tried to say that it was a love letter to anime, the writers act as if Sailor Moon is the only anime with a female lead. Hell, I mean, it wouldn't even surprise me if these guys thought that Sailor Moon was the only female anime character in existence, since all of the other members of the Ashigari princesses are obviously modeled after Sailor Moon, not just Luna. And the fact that Luna's henchmen are buff Japanese men cosplaying as Sailor Moon is another flaw with this episode. I mean, the buffoons who wrote this show tried to essentially say it was a love letter to anime, but it's not. There are female anime villains who do have who have henchmen who are men who work for them, and they're not essentially wearing dresses. Yeah, for a show that actually had to use anime tribute as its essential pitch to get Adult Swim interested, the guys who wrote it don't really seem to know that much about anime. They just go with what little knowledge the mainstream public actually knows about it. And that was To Catch a Princess, the only good episode of Ballmasterz 9009. I really gotta say that this is the closest we'd ever come to a Moemon anime. It actually showed legitimate gender equality by putting the girly femme fatale in a situation where you think she's gonna be able to flirt her way out of it and get away, but just like in Japanese anime, the hero would punch her lights out. And in all fairness, it is really hard to believe that Adult Swim hasn't tried to essentially make a metagame out of this. I mean, I know that in the past, Adult Swim and Cartoon Network have put games on their website, and from where I'm standing, it would make logical sense for them to essentially put To Catch a Princess on the games section at adultswim.com, assuming it's still there. I mean, they did another Pokemon parody for Rick and Morty called Pocket Mortys, and that was popular enough to get a comic book adaptation. To give credit where credit is due, I got at least one of my points, that being that the premise of the game To Catch a Princess, it being what Ballmasterz 9009 should have been about, from fan art of it made by Majin Lord. More specifically, these 4 pieces. But yeah, I was going to review this episode regardless, but when I saw these on DeviantArt, I saw what he had to say, and I agreed. The concept of this game is really more or less what Ballmasterz 9009 should have been about. And something else I noticed when rewatching this episode for the first time on my Amazon Fire Stick is this statue. I mean, in all fairness, when it comes to terms of premise, this statue, the one that's crushing these 3 skulls, it was probably involved in some kind of awesome battle that we should have seen. And in all fairness, I don't know if it ever appears again in the series or in the first episode, but an awesome sci-fi war with robots and lasers would have been a lot more interesting than essentially a science fiction version of a 90s sports movie that exists to say, fuck you anime, we're superior, even though in reality, every time the show says that, it just shows how inferior and bitter, how inferior the show is and how bitter the writers are to the fact that Adult Swim gets the bulk of their ratings from Japanese anime, and not any show that was a pilot that they came up with. In short, To Catch a Princess from Ballmasterz 9009 is the definition of the overall phrase that one good episode from an overall terrible show. And with that said, I am hereby ending this review.